everyone, you're with Business Insider. This is Sriram Iyer, and we are kicking off a special partnership with the Observer Research Foundation. We know them better as ORF, a think tank that policymakers can ignore at their own risk. ORF is a bunch of people in India that they do something that others can't. Put their heads down, focus on some in-depth research, and then form opinions, and not jump to conclusions based on 280 characters of information. And we at Business Insider, we are the bridge between these two worlds, because now more than ever before, we all need to come together, because a teeny tiny virus that you can't see with your naked eye has shown us that the economy, the society, and the evolution that we are so proud of, it is as fragile as it was, if not worse, a few hundred years ago. So here we are presenting to you The Big Reset, a special series where thought leaders from the world of corporate, startups, economists, scientists, and health experts, to name a few, will come together and tell you what you need to win in the post-COVID world. Our episode is the first episode that we are kicking off right now, is called India's Digital Reboot. Joining us today from ORF is veteran journalist Kanchan Gupta, who has seen India's technology revolution evolve. He's seen it from a vantage point, unlike a lot of other people in my generation who went through the chaos and the indulgence to experience it. And for the big debut, we have with us India's hustler-in-chief, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, the founder of Paytm, which, as many of you may think, is not just an e-wallet. It sells stuff on Paytm Mall like Flipkart and Amazon. It sells mutual funds online. It gives small loans to small businesses and individuals. You can recharge stuff like mobiles, electricity, gas, and you can play games too. And what is the latest from Vijay? The company has also made its insurance debut today with a COVID-19 plan that will cover your loss of pay in case you are caught in a quarantine. Now that I'm done with my short, unsolicited advertisement for Paytm, let me go to Vijay with my first question. Vijay, I hope you, your colleagues, and your loved ones are safe and well. While we are all aware of the plight of the billions of people around the world, and we have in our thoughts and prayers those in India with or without the means of survival, what we are really trying to do here is to explain to those who have our attention to best position themselves and to capitalize on the opportunities that this crisis has thrown upon us. To your mind, will this be similar to the breakout moment that you experienced post demonetization, or will this be different?
First of all, thank you, Sriram, for having me here and giving me a chief hustler title. I can say that that was a new one. And hello, Mr. Gupta. Good to see you on our panel today afternoon. So.
A lot of people, Vijay, just to interrupt you, I'm sorry to interrupt right at the go. A lot of people, a lot of investors, a lot of your clients who you deal with, they called you this, not me.
Well, till the time I'm hustling hard, it's fine.
Yeah.
So thank you again. So Sriram, I'd say that while what is going on right now in the world is extraordinary, none of us ever imagined. 9/11 happened in a country, so there was a repercussion, a ripple wave that reached different countries, but it was very different because 9/11 belonged to one country. And if you look at 2008, and I'm talking about millennium age crises, not 1929 or others in advance before that. So if you look at after 2001, 2008 crisis, which was in one particular industry, because this was belonging to financial services industry, and obviously world is linked and world is connected, so it reached fellow very connected entities and industries. But today what we have is the world economy has come at halt. So this is unprecedented, not because it is another crisis. It is unprecedented because every industry, every country, everywhere on earth we are going to face it, and we are facing the crisis out there. So the question of whether, when I read articles that world may go in recession, I'm a little surprised, because it is not a question of world may go in recession. We should put
it already is.
How the world will come out of this.
And I can't believe you're laughing about this.
Well, when you have nothing left to do, you can only laugh at it yourself and laugh at the things that we as humans have done, we as people have done. So looking at digital breakout opportunity in this case, I can only say this, that first of all, while it is nice and positive to carry opinion of that there is an opportunity disguised in a crisis, but it is more about that we will learn extraordinarily more about the world, not near to each other. The digital world is more of a called virtual world, and sort of virus is forcing us to live a virtual world life. Look at this, that right now we are in 3 different places and trying to come together. This is exactly what internet preaches, that solo, individual, disconnected from others, connected to the computers. connected to your smartphones. So I would say that virus sort of by definition is bringing in virtual world in place in order. People are learning how to talk, communicate. People are learning how to place order, payment, or whatnot, whatever, everything else. So more than opportunity, I'll say this is a crisis. It's in Hindi we say आवश्यकता ही आविष्कार की जननी है. So this is one of those moments where the is sort of the backbone on which we are living life these days. If it was not this, we would have been totally under-informed, performing whatever the productivity we have today.
Definitely. In a recent interview, you told our reporter Sanchita that you are working towards profitability in 2 years. I'm guessing that is off the table now. The calculations, all the old calculations will have to change. I mean, why not? Why just small businesses? Ambani went from we will be zero debt in 1 year 3 months ago to let's borrow some more money now. So I think we're all small fries. All old calculations have to be revisited.
To be honest about it, right now coming out alive, sailing is winning. Sometimes, as they say, survival is thriving. So these are the days where if we all survive, those who together survive, and this is where the community feeling also I bring in together. That I believe that this is the time for startups not to chase any other thing but a survival. In that sense, sort of extraordinary decision that we take on any direction, reflection upon the businesses vertical we do, why are we doing and what not we are doing, while there are a lot of things to be corrected inside, and then there is the market force. So while market force may delay it, but as far as internal lean, mean, thin machine is considered, that will come faster. So I still carry the 2-year breakeven target.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. Mr. Gupta, I want to bring you in here. He is still chasing the target in 2 years, but he's also sobering the excitement of opportunities, because I'm sensing a certain level of the fear of the unknown in his voice. Do you also feel the same?
Yeah, see, look, nobody knows right now what it's going to be after the pandemic has been halted, if not rolled back. In the past couple of days, various reports have come out on the impact on the economy, the global economy. The IMF says that what we are going to witness is something worse than what the world witnessed during the Great Depression in 1930s. The total loss of global business is being pegged at anything between $1 and $2 trillion. India alone would be hit to the tune of around $400 million just during the lockdown period. Retail is off, aviation sector is off, hospitality is off. Nobody is going to look at going on vacations in the foreseeable future. Nobody is going to look at going out shopping in the foreseeable future or thronging the malls. Or so it's a gray zone, and I don't think my generation has seen. At least I have seen one more pandemic. That was the smallpox pandemic in the 1970s. But that was a different world. And in today's world, something like this happens. The disruption, the economic disruption, is huge. And if the economy goes for a toss, digital payments is bound to go for a toss. Ironically, the last disruption that happened, demonetization, gave a boost to digital payment services. And between then and now, there was a spurt in the performance of digital payment services.
Yes.
Mr. Vijay, I think Vijay calculated his 2 years of breaking even or turning profitable based on the spurt that he witnessed in the last year and a half. But I think he would not be too sure as of today whether that spurt is going to continue. 40% straight is off the radar. So we are looking at very.
What is this 40% figure, Mr. Gupta?
You see, retail, aviation, and hospitality alone make up about 40%.
Okay.
In a peak direction, if not less. I mean, minimum you can expect some industries like Gupta.
Actually, yes. Yes, we can. And also all these estimates are also a little fragile right now because again, it's a developing scenario. One question is, Vijay, maybe we can look at the data in the last 2-3 weeks. In your experience, what is your internal data showing? I mean, I think for our viewers who are watching right now, I want to summarize what Mr. Gupta is that yes, this is like Vijay said, going to move into the digital world and using those services. But the fact of the matter is, if you are not buying enough, then even paying digital.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the last 2 weeks of data, what are they showing?
Yeah, so one of the things that we look at ourselves, we were seeing offline merchant, online merchant. So month of March, because more or less 3/4 of the month was alive, sort of, even if it was partially locked in some part of the country. So we saw month on February, March on a pro data basis, sort of 4% up. But when we look at numbers from March to April, there is a clearly downward trend out there, because number of online services have gone down, number of offline shops that have gone down. So lockdown is a bigger economic crisis. Let me say that. While we can always, I mean, this is one of the fundamental.
I'm going to put you in a spot. Are you agreeing with Trump where he said the cure is more deadly than the virus itself?
No doubt about it. I mean, there is no secret about it. The fact that the cure is that we should stop eating, running businesses, and so on, which over the period, we all have a resilience, we all have a grace period. As they say, we all have reserves. But reserves are not going to permanently live through. I mean, the economy requires starting up, the economy requires moving. I believe the governments across the world, I mean, especially India's, would go even harder trouble in deciding how to unlock the lockdown, how to open it up, because it is making a choice, as we very commonly are reading, living versus the living of life. I mean, living versus living. I mean, the work that we do versus life. So it's very tricky. I don't know. To be honest about it, I feel for the administrators, I feel for the governments, I feel for the economists. There is, I mean, I'm lucky that I can say that I can comment on this. But look at this. We right now are collecting money from people, and we have our own personal money donated and our office teammates' money donated, so that we can feed 25,000 food packets in Noida and total hundreds of thousands in different cities. But that is not enough. That has nothing to do with this. How many months anything will be sustainable like this? These are extraordinary times, but the unknown, like you said, Sriram, is reality. The problem is, we do not know. There is no solution out. There is no vaccine out there. It is not a question of being in lockdown or not. It is a question of how long we will be in lockdown.
Please. Yeah. Please do.
You see, talking about the lockdown until when will it last is really we can talk about it till the cows come home, and because frankly nobody knows, or nobody has a clear picture except maybe a handful of people who are going to take the call. But coming back to what we began with, does Vijay have some kind of an idea? What will it need? What will it require for the digital payments sector to ride the storm, to tide over the crisis? What can the government do for the industry? What is expected of the government? And it has to be a reasonable expectation.
Correct.
So some thoughts on that would be useful.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for asking me this question. And as you understand, startups are very fragile organizations. Like, more or less, they are, even if they are hugely funded with hundreds of $millions or thousands of crores, but they are as fragile as an SME would be in this environment. So first of all, they also employ a huge number of people. So somewhere, government also expects us to pay taxes and do a lot of other payments, which are loss-making companies that we all are. So somewhere, if our reserves could allow us to run longer, that is what I'm going to seek. If the money that we have raised as equity, or money that we make from our customers, allow us to fuel the company to run longer as less losses, basically. In other words, cost of compliances, cost of different kind of taxes, if they could be deferred. I totally understand that government also needs money from us. So government could do is that, this is wish, that is why I can say it, but I understand it is not so straightforward. I can say that, let's say, this year's corporate tax or income tax is now deferred for next year, and no interest will be levied on that. So government may not be able to collect the cost here, but they have to find some other alternate ways to fund their stimuluses. But if they could just stop taking the money that they take from young companies, SMEs, or technology startups, or other kind of small restaurants or so on, those who got affected here, and say that, look, I'm with you. I will not take the money that you used to submit to me. And as far as the benefit to the people, benefit to the workers are, you will continue. So PF, ESI benefits, salary benefit, all those things will continue, except that the contribution I used to take, you can live without that.
Okay,
whether
interesting.
VAT, income, anything.
Interesting. I want to take this conversation a little forward, Mr. Gupta. I hope you got your answer. Maybe if not, you can. Yeah, okay, great. So the other thing is, again, I want to talk about some positives that we can possibly take from here. Like I said, remembering at the same time that there are millions of people who don't have a choice of speaking about the positive. So the point is, say, for example, today you made your insurance debut, Vijay. What is the model? I know you pegged it as something that people can avail for loss during, quarantine. Is it only for the patients who are, right now detected as positive, or is it for even for those who are, quarantined for contact tracing and stuff like that?
This is for everyone. This is for everyone. You can take different layers of comfort in this policy. I think it's a fear that is making people buy insurance. Insurance is nearly a fear or a regulatory obligation product. We'll buy vehicle or we'll buy road accident insurance because we are either fearful or there is a regulatory obligation.
And is this only for this one, or if there is a future pandemic, you'll cover it as well?
Yeah, this one is made for COVID, and this one is made for viruses, sort of. So we are a reseller because we are not an insurance company. We are just a company which is reselling an insurance company's product. So overall, what I can say is that this is the time when all of us as common people are trying to find out how to protect ourselves. So insurance comes out as a good instrument. This is a pure COVID insurance, and government has enabled all health insurance packages to already include this. This is a post facto. If something got hurt in your life because of COVID, that will be secure.
Another one statement that you recently made was about, in 3 years from now, 3 of your, broad categories, which is financial service, commerce, and content, at least two of them will be ready to be listed. And you've made this statement last week. And contrary to what Mr. Gupta, you believe that his calculations are based on post-demon experience. He's made this statement last week. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Well, I think, like Mr. Gupta is saying, the reality of the truth will actually be learned over the period when the market get open. So I would not be sounding brash at all in this case. I would be very honest that the understanding based on the business model that we are seeking here is that our banking business, which is incidentally profitable by design, and after a certain amount of net worth, it has an obligation to get listed. So it will get listed. And not talking. My intention was to say that maybe Paytm may not get listed, but subsidiaries or affiliate companies may get listed. So the intention
basically spin out the parts into
that's right. Bank is a spin out, commerce is a spin out, gaming is a spin out. All these companies, if you sum the part of all these combined, then comes the value of the Paytm, because Paytm is just another entity while these have got spun out.
Nice.
Revival of the markets once COVID gets over. I mean, obviously, if you're
I would look at. Well, I think this is a 2-year forward statement. So anything in this conversation is always 2 years forward. So I would refrain from saying that market revival short term has any intent to incrementally do anything. And it is not even about looking at listing.
Actually, Vijay, on that point, I want to make a larger. I have a question in my mind. In a post-COVID world, and Mr. Gupta, you can also chip in if you want. What is short term? I mean, traditionally, short term is 1 year, and anything more than that is long term. In a post-COVID world, will that still be true?
Well, I think I want to now answer it in a metaphor for a phone call. I was talking to some really senior people in the world. I mean, sort of people who handle hundreds of $billion #hint. So
we have narrowed it down to 3 people. And
no, my board has people who are all 100 billion people, by the way, literally. I mean, Alibaba, SoftBank, or Berkshire, all 3 are those people. And yes, one of my fellow board members. So one of the conversation I was doing, they said that these are the days when days seem like week seems like month, and month is like a year. So short term is literally few hours now.
We are talking about recovery post-coronavirus. Um, uh, One of the success stories of China when it comes to digital payments, etc., is often cited. But the fact of the matter is that you are not the only player here. In China, in most e-commerce related businesses, there is a near monopoly for many companies. You don't have that advantage. You have to fight the likes of Google, Amazon, and Reliance, and everyone who's joining into this space. So, how does that affect the recovery and the outlook?
More number of players can bring more faster recovery for sure. And at the same point of time, this also puts a little bit more obligation of coordination on administration, namely governments and department of the government that are going to work. So I can only say one thing, that more number of companies give more probability of discovering what is the correct way to recover. But what happens in China is that it behaves like as if it's a perfectly CEO-run company, not literally a country. So if something is experimented at one place, it quickly gets duplicated and the questions, answers, or problems are sorted out back. I just learned that they started
one big sandbox by itself.
Yeah, I mean that while China could be looked at as a country, China could be looked at as an economy or a company itself also, because the way it operates is in so meticulous.
But I think there are two ways of looking at it. One is there are so many companies who are going to fight for the same pie, which is probably going to be smaller than what you had estimated earlier, and each one of them has billions and billions of dollars to burn. The good thing is it going to be advantage to the consumer? The people who are watching this broadcast right now, are they going to have another telecom-like experience in e-commerce?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. It had corrected a few months or few quarters back already. We've seen the heydays of discounts and cashbacks or throwing money probably in different sectors in different years. I don't think that e-commerce is poised to see another such, because it was very clear Indian consumer and economy meant that we wanted to bring more number of people online, more number of people to learn basics of digital transactions, and then add the commerce to it. So expecting that there will be a absolute splurge of money, absolutely not, because there is
not fair to assume that the post-coronavirus world would be something similar to, and in one of our earlier conversations,
extremely subdued, not subdued, but extremely subdued.
I'll tell you what. One of the panelists in our previous one of the conversations earlier I did made this statement saying that every single human being is now down to the bottommost layer of the Maslow's pyramid hierarchy. Right? Everybody is looking at each man for himself kind of a situation. And if that translates to business, and especially in the areas that you are in, where each one of them is a mighty organization in their own right, isn't that going to be a good news for consumers? Is all I'm thinking.
Okay. So consumers will have. My belief is that consumers are learning how technologies are mainstream every day. Earlier, like you said, an example of payments. Now, how the communications can work, how the families can come online, how not only the offices can use, then transactions, ordering. For example, like India probably will leapfrog from a retail-led e-commerce model to offline to online O2O, where the shopkeepers' goods are delivered. And this is like leapfrogging from wireline broadband to the wireless broadband faster. So I'd say that there is a bright side, obviously, that there is a extremely talented Indian customer base who has now learned few more tricks of the internet technologies that are out there. And that means there is a wider audience. Now, as far as these are concerned, yes, good. But like you said it yourself, Maslow's hierarchy being bottomed out, meaning that there is a problem of the capital, problem of GDP per capita, problem of spending, and problem of overall sentiment out there. And then the companies also. Nobody is going to open the purse string these days. It is going to be preserve the cash instead of preserve, or I mean, if somebody wants to throw money, it welcome. I mean, I'm sure many other don't even reply to that. I would say that's right now.
So I want a one-line answer. We're completely timed out here, and we have one question, and if you can answer as succinctly as possible. Because you're entering microcredit, you were there already. I want to know, there is a big headache coming up for banks because of this post-corona job losses, etc. All that is going to happen, which is your repayment of these small loans, and most people are not going to be able to. Are you worried?
100%. Every company that was built on unsecured credit, every fintech, which mostly is, I can say that this is going to be the biggest nightmare of 2020.
And that holds true for you as well.
Everyone, us included. Luckily, our credit book has been extremely small vis-a-vis many others who expanded on it. Our NBFC license is still pending from regulators, so we partner with some others. So it is not our book; it is our partner's book. But at the same time, I can say this, that it is an extraordinary movement where, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I can quote the example in the market. HDFC Bank, Bajaj Finserv are down to 50% of their market cap in a market where they are, and they have always been the rock star of the world, and they are absolutely the greatest of the company in this country even today. But looking at their forward multiple, they will be down. So there is a reason that it is so.
Do you want to? Yeah, please go on. Yeah, please.
This whole thing about microcredit and the financial services fintech companies have been offering. Have you approached the government for some sort of a shield or assistance or whatever to ensure that this does not come as a killer for companies which are smaller than yours but would definitely want to hang around?
Yes, sir. I seek one help from you in this, and we are reaching out to government and regulator on that. Somehow, if you notice, people will not be able to pay their pending interest. There is a moratorium, but even after once that you go there, they will not have money to pay. So there will be a mass credit rating discount that will happen in this country. Everybody who's not able to pay, with percentage-wise, significant large number of small businesses and individual will get impacted. And that credit rating is like a perpetual mark in the credit history of the people. So India's overall credit rating would go down unless we take a call of not letting these impacted credit ratings, or we take some moratorium or support for paying their interest payouts. So, sir, we are reaching out to government and we are reaching out to regulator to discover how to help small merchants in this case. This is going to be one of the initiatives that as soon as we start seeing opening of moratorium period and obligation starting, we will work on that. So what you're saying is perfect.
There should be a moratorium on credit rating also. I mean, it should just remain frozen till...
Basically. Yeah, absolutely. If the economy is not back in track, we are going to judge people on their repaying capabilities. We are actually victimizing larger audience or country or small businesses, much bigger level than literally only for the credit of today.
Definitely.
That's a very interesting suggestion, actually.
Yes, absolutely.
We were reviewing how the economy will come back, and in that, one of the learning that we did was that we will not be able to give loan to, or we will not be able to help extend loan to the people who were earlier getting, because their credit rating will go so down haywire. So now India, where the large corporates credit ratings are challenged, and then you have SMEs whose credit challenge. I mean, India is a bad credit rating country, so let's save India's bad credit ratings.
Definitely.